Today we lost a friend. A friendly thing that always greeted us gently with its calming startup sound, warming arrow theme, and its reliable and easy to use interface. Today we are mourning the loss of Microsoft Windows 7. But before we mourn, let's take a tour and find out a little bit about Windows 7, its history, meaning, and features. Microsoft Windows 7 was launched on July 22, 2009 for OEMs and was ready for general public by October 22, 2009. Windows 7 brought so much new stuff to the table and was developed into a very stable, reliable release of Windows. I can't say much about early Windows OSs such as NT4, 95, or 98, but as for 7, this OS served as my old faithful for 3 years, and before that it was Microsoft Windows XP. So, from personal experience, I can confirm that Windows 7 probably is one of the best Windows OSs ever made in the regard of stability, safety, and just overall a good user experience. Windows 7 came in several versions, ranging from the following Starter all the way up to Ultimate. Ultimate was a simple 2GB memory limit and a single CPU OS. Home Basic was the same thing, but with a limit of 8 gigs of memory. Home Premium was the same thing, but with a limit of 16 gigs of memory. Professional, which we will be trying out today, supported multi-CPU and up to 192 gigs of memory. Enterprise was basically professional, but for business and educational uses, and then Ultimate basically came with everything. Windows 7 was built on the Microsoft Windows NT 6.1 kernel. Other OSs on the same kernel include Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2. It was made for both 32 and 64-bit systems, so you can get any version of Windows 7 in a variety of 32 and 64-bit versions. Of course, the 32-bit versions only support up to 4 gigabytes of RAM, regardless of what version you purchased. Mainstream support has already ended, and it ended on January 13th, 2015, but we are celebrating the end of extended support, which is going to be ending today on January 14th, 2020. Steve Ballmer called Windows 7 a refined Windows Vista, which is almost correct, except it almost feels just like a fresh start over Vista and giving Microsoft a new ability to show the world that they can still make a proper operating system. And it was indeed miles better than Vista. It included stuff like a reworked taskbar and an improved arrow theme, which gives a pretty good ambience to the operating system, better than Windows Vista in my opinion. It also improved on other features from Vista, such as the Windows sidebar, and it basically allowed you to put the widgets anywhere instead of just in a sidebar. It included some things built into the taskbar that allow you to preview windows before you click into them, and it was overall just a very nice and smooth user experience that gave people just a good impression overall, and it was indeed critically acclaimed at launch. Next, we are going to begin the tour and demonstration of Windows 7. Now, I would like to show you guys some things. So this is what the arrow theme looks like. As you can see here, it offers a transparent glass theme that is that continues throughout. Open another Explore window here so you can kind of see. Now, since it overall does bog down system performance, I am going to turn it off for the remainder of the tour. This is what the basic theme looks like. It just removes arrow, but it improves system performance so much. You can demonstrate here. When you come over here, the task or the start menu is a little buggy, and so it just makes for a tough time demonstrating. So I'm just going to leave it off, even though it doesn't look as good. This is the starter theme that was packaged with Windows 7 Starter. And so, as you can see here, right off the bat, the taskbar is different. It is a little wider. I can demonstrate to you what the Vista taskbar looked like by enabling small icons. And this is exactly what it looked like, in fact. A very slim, and they made it a little wider. I think this is better because it's easier on the eyes. They also introduced a semi-new start menu. Of course, this is all arrow when arrow is enabled, and I think it included better. I can't type. I think included better search, and I just think it looks better than the one on Vista, even though they may be similar. And then the desktop experience, just it comes with a clean blue Windows logo wallpaper that I guess many people kept because it's the default, and it's quite pleasing to look at. This is just a fresh install, so I guess we'll go over the things that came with a fresh install. Of course, this is a Windows 7 professional installation. I'll show. Oops. So just running on the test system. I haven't activated Windows yet. Probably won't ever, even though I have about a dozen Windows 7 keys. And so this is what your start menu look like when you first install. You have some stuff that you may never use, but you have fun stuff like Paint here. Typical Windows Paint. And then you have some other important utilities, like stuff that's only included with Pro, like Remote Desktop. You can also come here to All Programs, and this is where it gets fun. This is where you can access all your stuff. It'll likely all be held in a folder, compared to like what it is today, where you have access to your applications, and you can click here to view this submenu here. So kind of similar, but Windows 10's implementation is just a evolution. And so let's look at some of the pre-installed programs. We've already demonstrated Paint. Snipping Tool is your typical screenshotting application, if it works. Here it is. See, you can save it. And this is what the Explore Save menu looks like in Windows 7. And so you can just save it. And you can go and view it. Here it is. There you go. Now, something I do need to turn arrow back on to demonstrate for you is the previews that were implemented on the taskbar. So, personalize. Let's go back here. And so, one thing that was improved on the taskbar over Windows Vista was the ability to preview stuff. So if I run my mouse over this, you can come over here and you can see the little preview in the window. That is live, and I can hover over it to show the window. So if I go over here to close the desktop, you can click here, and I hover over this, I can look at it, or if I want to see my picture, and then I can also, I should be able to come over here and close it, but I think that's a bug. Yeah, it is, you can see. And that just crashed it. Again, Arrow is not fully supported in VM or in this virtual machine, and so it's not. And that's basically why I'm keeping it disabled. Sorry about that. And so that's that, and then you also get some sample pictures here, which are pretty nice to look at. Here's a desert. Some of these may be recognizable because these were used to sample pictures by a lot of people for some reason. Pretty nice. And that was Windows Photo Viewer. It's pretty nice. Windows did come with a sample video. Here's Windows Media Player for Windows 7. This is, I'm not sure what version this is. We're about to find out. Copyright, probably. Hang on. I should be able to find it here. Ooh. I don't know where I can find it. That's weird. Options, maybe. I don't know. It's Windows Media Player for Windows 7. They do include some music. Kind of cool. And that's Windows Media Player. They also did include some other media stuff that I think carried over from Vista, such as Media Center. If it'll come up here, it might not. No. So this was basically, I think, in a way, a response to Apple's Front Row. In fact, I know there's a lot of lovers of front. Oh, did I break it? I think I did. Yep. I know there's a lot of lovers of Apple's Front Row, but I do think Media Center is better because it's more full-featured. See if I can get it to run again without it launching in full screen. It is, isn't it? Yeah, it really doesn't like 256 megs of VRAM. It doesn't like VirtualBox in general, so we'll leave that be. Maybe that's something we can use for another video. It was discontinued after Windows 7. We've gone through Media Player. There's Windows Anytime Upgrade. This allows you to upgrade to anything higher. So if you're using Home Basic, you can go to Home Premium. Professional, you can go to Ultimate or something like that. Here's some other typical stuff. Of course, you get IE. I don't remember. I think it's IE. This is Service Pack 1, so it may be IE8. Kind of garbage by today's standards. I mean, it was garbage back in 2009, or whenever IE8 came out. Anyways, and then here we can show off the desktop gadgets. So in Vista, of course, it was known that you could only have them in the sidebar here, but now you can have them anywhere you like. Change the picture here, which was a cool addition, I guess. Those did make startup take a little longer, I will mention though. Startup did take longer with those enabled. We'll go back to programs, accessories. Now here's where you'll get into some more typical stuff here. You got a calculator, of course you have a command prompt. Typical par for the course, Windows, Notepad, all the stuff that just comes with a typical installation like WordPad here, basically Microsoft Word, but not as advanced. Pretty neat. Of course, you have your accessories like we just looked over. You have games, but this installation doesn't have any. Maintenance, which includes an assistant for backup and restore, and then Windows Remote Assistant. And it's always kind of made me think that that does kind of look a little bit like a Mac OS symbol right there. Maybe that's just me, but that's what it looks like. That's me for installing guest editions. And that's basically all there. It's cool that you have these things here. You can see your personal folder here, which includes your desktop, your downloads, and just stuff here, saved games, searches, which is neat. Documents, shortcut to the documents, pictures, obviously, shortcut to pictures, music, shortcut to that, computer, takes you to computer, just as you would expect it to. I'll close these. And then here's one for your control panel, so you can click this to get here. Control panel, basically used for, like you'd expect, basically the equivalent to settings of today. Even though in Windows 10 we still do have the control panel to some degree, even though it doesn't have the same type of feature set, because most of that is migrated to settings. But that's just a comparison to Windows 10. Yeah, and then this is just how you control the computer, change settings. It's a settings menu. devices and printers. This is basically a viewer for you can see all the stuff. Here's your computer, the stuff you have connected, and you can see all your printers and connected devices there. Not sure what this does. I guess this changes like default web browser stuff to open media applications and such. Help and support, that's self-explanatory. So I'll go over some administrative tools that come with Windows 7 Pro, since we are looking over Pro. So I'll start with you get remote desktop. Of course, you get, I think this is in any Windows install, but you do get your services menu. Yeah, of course you get a CMD. You can run that as administrator from here. Oops. Oh. Yeah, run that as administrator here. That's what the UAC looks like. Pretty typical and comparable to Vista's, except it's way less sensitive, and we'll go over that later. And you just get your typical suite, you know, what you'd expect from a professional version of Windows. So, like I said earlier, just a second ago, UAC, you can come in here and you can have it always notify you. This is basically Vista's default. Notify me of simple things like that, and do not dim the desktop, but then you can have it to never notify. So let's go to CMD. Oops. That made me look like an idiot. Oh look, I have to reboot. We're not doing that. Sorry, as much as I would love to demonstrate that, I am not demonstrating that by rebooting. Sorry. And that's basically it. As you can tell, it's very fast. Even in a VM, it's a very fast OS. Again, it's running on limited hardware. And it overall, what was so great about 7 is it just worked. And I will definitely miss its simplicity and its, you know, even though it has good form, its form over function design approach, even though it is a very good looking OS. Again, I dailied this for 3 years, and it's kind of sad having to say goodbye, but it's okay, because it's all worth it. And so I guess for one final send-off, at least for the eyes of the viewers, we'll shut it down. Again, typical part for the course was also here in Vista. You get a sleep menu here. Shut down. And here we go. We're shutting down. And so a little slow demonstration. I was talking pretty quiet, pretty exhausted. It's been a long day. But I just want to get in here so I can post this video on the 14th, because it is the first or the first month of the year, the 13th. January 14th is when the service ends, and so I'd like to have this premiere tomorrow. Thank you guys for coming along. I appreciate it. I'll have the link to where you can find out more about upgrade options if you are still running Windows 7. So I recommend upgrading to Windows 10. If you still don't like the idea of Windows 10 spying on you, there is always Windows 8, 8.1. You can also pick Linux or Mac OS if that's what you prefer. Thank you guys for coming along, and I will catch you guys in the next one.